Hello everyone, here I am again talking about the INS meeting, the International Neuropsychology Society meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Yesterday, I saw a conference that to me was the highlight of the event till now, because it was very different from everything I see when it comes to neurosciences and psychology, and I think also the theme it makes me feel some empathy about the thing, because it's a problem that we all deal with and we all worry about, that's violence. So this conference was held here, and the speaker was Feggy Ostroski, and she's a Mexican neuroscientist, and she has done a lot of work with violent behavior and aggression, and also aggressive behavior. She says the things are different, and I did a blog about it, so you can check it out. I'm gonna link it, talking exactly about what she said in the presentation. And here I'm gonna talk about some impressions that I have about this team, because she works with violent behavior, and violent behavior is something that's very, very common. I mean, not common like we all are very violent in our everyday life, but we see violence every day. I mean, we just have to open the newspaper or see the news or anything like that. We always see some news that talk about it, and sometimes we live that, and we in many different cases. I mean, there's car accidents and people get violent or aggressive, and a lot of things like that every in our everyday routine. So and also it's a thing that is very well explored through stories. I mean, we have a lot of series that talk about psychopaths, sociopaths, and serial killers, and we have in many series we have and not only series, I mean films and soap operas and things like that, we have villains. I mean, villains usually show some sort of personality characteristics that are related to psychopaths and sociopaths. I'm not saying they all are, but there are some behaviors that they both present, and also in books and movies and everything. Everybody saws that. I mean, when I was younger, I loved the series Dexter, and he's a serial killer, and he killed people, and I still was rooting for him because I really loved the story, and it happens a lot. And I think last year Netflix launched You. That's a series about I don't know the classification exactly, because he was a stalker, and I'm not sure if he was a psychopath or a sociopath. I mean, for what I've been learning here, I think they needed a lot of more tests to confirm what kind of personality he had, even though I think in the history of the episodes we could say some things, checking his behavior, especially the things that happened in his childhood. So I think one of the main ideas of this talk was that kids really suffer from that, and mostly the violent behavior comes from events and trauma and abuse that are related to the person's childhood. So I mean, they have really big problems with their parents, and sometimes sexual abuse. She showed a lot of data that was very sad, that sexual abuse was very, very common in this kind of people that show violent behavior. She showed that not all criminals are psychopaths and sociopaths with her data. I mean, she worked with a lot of people that were in jail, and most of them consider themselves good people, even though they have committed violence. So it was very interesting from that point of view, actually. And I think, to me, the main idea here that I wanted to talk to you about is that the power of this kind of research. I mean, violence is a problem in most of science, we know, and there are a lot of components to this problem. I mean, there are biological ones, there are psychological ones, neuropsychological ones, and there are a lot of sociological and anthropological components, cultural and economic and politics. There are so many things that influence this kind of behavior and influence this kind of issue, social issue that is violent. So when you do research like that, you have too much power. I mean, she was when she said all the things about how the brain changes, how trauma is correlated to the intensity of the violent behavior, and she talked about the psychopaths and the sociopaths. And after all of that, at the end of the presentation, there was a woman that actually asked her if she thought that in countries like Brazil and Mexico, because we had a lot of favelas and a lot of violence, and she thought she asked if Feggy thought that it could be related. I mean, like, poor people would have more tendency to do violence because they live in these places, so they suffer more trauma, and already it could be some sort of trigger for these people that already have this biological component that might improve violent behavior. Because the thing is that violent behavior, it's genetic, so it's biological, and there are some changes in the brain and changes in how the chemistry of the brain works, and also in the connections too. The connections in each areas, especially areas that are related to empathy, are different. And also there is the environment. So the question was that, and I was really scared, and the woman asked that, because I thought, oh my God, what's she thinking? I mean, she's basically trying to say that poor people would be more violent, so they are the problem. This is very, very, I don't know, it's very problematic thinking, because it's the same kind of thinking that could say gay people are the problems of AIDS. It's not like that. Everybody can get AIDS. It's just that we discover in this group, and because a lot of things happen. I don't know, but it's the kind of thing that Nazis would say about Jews, and I was really, really worried when she said something like that, because depending on Feggy's answer, I mean, the woman could live with a very wrong idea, and this meeting is very huge, and there are people from all the world here. So depending on the question, many people would live here with the idea that poor people could be the problem, because in poor people environments like favelas and something like that, we had more trigger to these conditions. But Feggy, thank God, she had a very good answer, because she said that it's not correlated. We just don't know how much violence actually there is when it comes to all the groups. I mean, violence and problems with parents and stress and all of that don't depend on social issues. I mean, the thing that makes violence more present in this kind of place is not biological. It's just something that is related to all the other components that I said here about violence. I mean, the social ones, the economics ones, wealthy distribution. It's really a trigger to that, because when we have so much disequality, I'm not sure if that's the term in English, but we have so much difference in people's wealth that we're gonna have these issues. I mean, we don't have this much violence in places where everyone has more quality of life. But when we have so much difference, this might happen. So it's not biological, it's anthropological and historical and a social issue. So that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you about my ideas and my impressions about this meeting. So keep studying these things, because it's very, very interesting. And actually this sort of research, especially her, and you should check the blog to see it, because I talk a little bit more it. I talk a little bit more about it, and it has the power to actually create very, very good and effective political things. I mean, political publicists and things like that, to actually help people, especially people in vulnerability. So it's kind of a social duty to do so. So that's it. Thank you. See you.